assistant here. We're studying Water 101, which currently is set up to be a very lecture-intensive class and a very heavy content, and Water 101. So,
do you mean the water conservation program?
it's for the water conservation program, and this is Water 101, where you get the big story, the overall picture, and I've ended up with glazed eyes and depressed hearts. So, Tamara's helping me here. The concept now is to, from day one, take a case study that, without any background information whatsoever, give them a fairly simple case study where they are to pull out the stakeholders, what geographical issues we may have, what...
Sorry.
Go for it.
Excuse me. If I can reframe that a little bit. The notion is to start with just like the biggest issues, like when you get a case study, can you figure out what are the issues? And secondly, can you figure out who the stakeholders are? Just big things right at first. And then go to a content class like the chemistry of water. And then have a discussion after the lecture and bring it back to the case study. Therefore, the arrows. And then say, okay, now knowing what you know about the chemistry of water, how does that influence what you're thinking about this case study? And then maybe for 3 or 4 classes in a row, keep adding content knowledge and bringing it back to the case study and ask the question over and over, how does that change our understanding of the problems and the people who are involved in the question? And then actually give, this is what happened with this case study. Give them a solution so they know from the very first case study that some problems are solvable, that there are issues that people can fix.
But to back up a little bit, at the end of that first class, we have them hand in what they've come up with, and I synopsize that for them.
Yes.
And so after each class, they fill in what more issues they may have come up with, more stakeholders, more financial issues, etc. So they can see how they're building on this knowledge. And then I love the idea of the role play, and so that as we go through, maybe that we do 3 different case studies through the course of the class, and by the last one, maybe we do a role playing, so they can really get deep into the issues.
And one of the things I wanted to mention is that we were working on making this a very collaborative learning focused class, so there wasn't straight lecture anymore, that these were lots of small group work, or think, pair, share kinds of activities. So each time students would, it's a 3-hour class, so every 3-hour class would have, part of it would be collaborative, maybe starting with that, and then having the lecture, and then flip-flop it so you get some variety and interest, but always include activity and lecture. And talking about the idea that the lecture doesn't have to cover everything. You always wanted the students to know that some of it can be the readings, so that, bringing some of the readings in to, okay, now what do we know? You've read something. How does that change how you're thinking about the problem, the case study? So there was a real deliberative thinking about how to make it, also thinking about sort of the universal design issues. How do you make sure that you have things in writing, you have things orally, you have things available for the students to read on their own, which could be available electronically, as well as in hard copy. Those kinds of issues would all be dealt with as things were selected.
And this is also the first class of students that will be together for 2 years, so this is team building. Everybody gets to know one another as well.
I think we covered it.
I think that's everything. All right.
Questions of clarification?
So this is like a term-long thing?
A class, a whole course, yeah.
Yeah, we went a little bit outside of the assignment.
That's okay. I think it worked better for us.
We definitely did.
It's got a beautiful structure, I think, having the center constantly referring back to the center over time from different vantage points. The organic kind of cyclical quality of it, I think, works well with the content matter too.
What kind of assessment do you see?
I don't know that we got there.
Any suggestions?
That would be helpful. We didn't get there yet.
Did you talk about the information seeking process and how you would build that in for each content phase?
You know what, I'm gonna answer that, and I'm also gonna go back to it. Actually, we did talk about assessment, I lost track of it. We had talked about having either quizzes or midterms or finals. You know, we did talk about, like on Moodle, so the content areas would have a traditional sort of sciencey type of exam, and then there.
Look at how you wrinkled your nose.
I know, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That was a bad
That
bit.
was a bad idea. That was bad. I'm sorry. That's
Friday
not
afternoon.
fair. I apologize to all of you. Nevertheless, we actually did talk about that. It's having two different ways of assessing. One was more traditional, is that okay? More traditional way of assessing, and then the other, I know I'm blushing now, and then the other would be, because they're working in teams, you know, you can do a lot of the assessing of teamwork, you know, have students evaluate each other and how they work together as a team, and also our thought was to actually have them write out, thus my question of the former group, their piece in the role play, and then they would turn that in as an example of the research that they had done and the way that they were understanding the problem, and we could assess some of their knowledge based on that. So yes, we actually did think about it, but I forgot about it. So we have to add that to our model. How would we put that up? I don't know. Okay.
So, and you should know you have permission to pitch the traditional types of science exams.
Yeah. You know, there's some rules for them.
That's what the wrinkled nose.
There's some ways to do it. Yes.
So I was thinking about your assessment that you suggested. Would that be an ongoing thing? It sort of sounded like that was kind of like at the end, the final.
Well, she could do a quiz each time. You know, you could do
Well,
those
no,
little.
yeah, I understand that,
Yeah.
those, but it seems like you would want to have, as students are going through and building their understanding of the case study based on the new content knowledge that they've gathered, that they could be writing something up.
Oh, you
at
bet.
each of those stages.
Yeah, so maybe after I've done the initial bringing together of all the ideas, they could, before we move on to the next case study, they could fill that out. What else did they take on
Sure.
over the
Could be a
next couple of
reflective
weeks?
piece.
And what
This
is
is a journal. Or
Yeah, that could be good. That could be really good.
Any other questions or clarification?
My original question
Oh,
about
yeah,
the
I'm sorry.
information seeking part, any research, or where would the readings come in on the different content?
Yeah, I think the readings are the big picture pieces that they then bring in to broaden this.
Do you have a mechanism in mind for getting students into that activity of finding things to bring in, or?
Well, we really were thinking just quite broadly. We hadn't gotten to that level. That's a great.
Put that down on the wondering about, because
yeah.
that's a more, less clarification, more wonderful point, so that they can address that, okay? Any other kind of clarification specifically about the poster? Okay, V for value, what you value, W for wonder, you can use 2 stickies, 1 sticky, your choice. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you very much.